connected. Andy, what is up, dude?
Yo, dude, what's going on?
Brother, man, oh man, I tell you, it's been a long fucking day, but man, we are here. Thank you so much for the time, man. I this has been a long time coming, brother.
Yeah, bro, I appreciate you setting this up for me, man, and being flexible on doing this a little later once the baby goes to sleep.
Man, see, and that's that's the thing too is that like now like my little ones are a little bit older, and so like they go to school and they have things, so I have like the free days, and whatnot. But then nights kind of come around, and so but we try to figure these things out, right? I mean, it's all
Yeah,
about
dude.
having fun and having a good time with that too, and congrats. I mean, as far as having a little one, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it has a whole level to your life that you don't really know until you have a kid. So
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's awesome.
no, it's crazy. I mean, and I commend you. I commend anybody else, who has families and are still into bands or different things and can kind of make that balance of things because it's a hard balance. I mean, even with
Yeah,
photography, even videography, doing different things like that. It's a hard thing to try and figure those things out, but somehow we manage, brother. We
yeah,
manage.
totally,
So.
man. Yeah,
So now, first and foremost, like I said, thank you very much for taking the time tonight. We've had quite a while. We've been trying to do this here, and something fun that I wanted to kind of kick this whole thing off with you personally uh, is a couple of things that you've purchased recently. We're going to dig into kind of coming up and our youth and our interest developing and all these things, but us sitting here right now and a couple of things that you've picked up recently. What's some stuff that you've gotten, brother?
yeah. I mean, well, let's see. I got raspberries. I got yogurt. I'm just kidding.
Mm-mm-mm.
All
Dude,
right, so
beautiful.
I mean, a couple things. I think the non-record thing I'll pull is this Godflesh hat that I picked up.
Whoa.
Yeah, from
Where'd you get that?
Goth Brooks, I think is the Instagram handle. Yeah, the Godflesh will pop up, I'm sure, a couple more times in this live. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, let's
Awesome.
crack into records because I pulled the kind of the most recent five that I feel like I got, and it kind of gives like a pretty good representation of like my music taste and just kind of where it's like eventually evolved and ended up. So
Mhm.
one of them, a little band called
You,
Slayer, South
dude.
of
What
Heaven.
what a record.
Uh, New Order, 1985 press.
Oh, wow. No shit.
Yeah,
Was that like something you found in the wild or you had to pick up off like a Discogs?
yeah. No, that was both of those records I just showed was at a cool record shop in St. Paul. They actually have like a rare records section, so that's where like
Whoa.
you're gonna find some heat in there. Um,
Damn.
Another one that I just got at Extreme Noise, which will come up later too, is Cult Ritual, one of my
Oh,
favorite
damn.
Youth Attack bands and records. Um, just
At a
incredible,
shop.
incredible shit. Have you heard this record?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. At a shop you found that.
it was yeah, dude. It was posted at Extreme Noise, and I was like, they don't do holds or anything, but I just sped right there directly after work. I think I told my wife I was like, I'll be home like 15 minutes late. I gotta go get this one.
Damn.
This one's a dope one. This is a
Shit.
1980
Whoa.
85 Celtic Frost, Emperor's Return,
Oh, okay.
some kind of
Okay. I'm
deep
not
shit.
familiar with that album. Okay.
Yeah, it's just an EP of theirs
Oh,
from back in the day. It's
okay.
seminal riffage. And then my homie's band, Public Opinion.
Hey, there we go. Okay.
He was my friend Kevin was very nice to send me a copy of that. So I want to talk about
Okay.
them too because yeah, they're sick and they're one of my favorites. But yeah, it kind of
Awesome.
gives like a weird smattering of like my music taste of like you know New Order to Slayer to Cult Ritual shit. I don't know. It all yeah. I have a very kind of I like a lot of things, so I think that also like feeds into my photography too and the shows I go to and yeah.
I, I mean, I love that, and I love that. I don't know necessarily how old you are, or how long you've been going to shows or things like that, but you know, I feel like a lot of people really have always shit on the mixed bill.
Hmm.
When you go to a show and it's like maybe a folk act somewhere in there with a metal band with, like a kind of, rock and roll or something. I used to love that shit.
Yeah.
And you would like, I mean, the whole point of it is kind of the fact of, I mean, A, maybe it's a small scene and you don't have enough bands. And so like you're trying to like just fucking, fill the thing. Um, but having, the opportunity of like just weird shit, going on, like, whoa, I was not looking forward to like wanting to hear like a duo hip hop group with a drum kit, but it's like,
Yeah.
this is sick.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I've always loved this. So I love, that especially too. I feel like, when you're kind of touching on like your work and having, the whole like live music session and having that like setting, but then also you'll have different things of just like everyday life and capturing like some sort
Hmm.
of different moment too. And it's interesting. I mean, when you're coming up, when you're a kid, first, are you from Minneapolis or the Minneapolis area?
No, I think part of my kind of interesting background is I'm from this really tiny town in Wisconsin, and I didn't move to Minneapolis till 2010 to go to school here. So I feel like when you sent me over those questions of kind of like a lot of my background and what got me interested in a lot of the music I eventually grown to love is like I feel like that's an important piece of context because I feel like I was so sheltered musically and like culturally for a while, and I really only got uh, introduced to a lot of new shit when I moved up here and went to college, and a bunch of my buddies gave me Meshuggah and Deftones and like that kind of stuff where I was
Cool.
like more more into like either what was on like the big pop punk stuff at the time, like Sum 41 and Blink 182, or like kind of just like bad metalcore, which was like really big in like the mid to late 2000s, and
Uh-huh.
especially like my graduating class was like 90 people, so I feel like you're only you're gonna gravitate to just like the kid wearing a Thursday hoodie or the kid wearing like a
Yeah.
a Day to Remember shirt or something, and you're like, oh, what's
Yeah.
that? So I definitely, yeah, it's an important thing because I feel like I was kind of like late to the party on a lot of that music or a lot
Hmm.
of the music I'm like currently into, and so especially it was a city called Altoona, which is
Okay.
I don't know, like 2 hours east of Minneapolis. Like there wasn't really shows or anything, of course. Um, there was a couple of other like skate rink shows and stuff where like maybe some local
Okay.
metalcore bands would play, or like my friend's older brother's band would play at like a battle of the bands. We kind of go there and wear our Hollister polos and like listen to August Burns Red in the parking lot, like that kind of stuff. But it
Flip
was like
flops on.
it was very like time and place. Like I don't feel really ashamed for like being into that stuff at the time, just because like
No. No.
I didn't know like what American Nightmare was or like Glassjaw or like anything
Uh,
like I think is cool now. Like I don't
right.
know. I
Well,
just
and it
didn't
was,
know it.
how old are you?
I'm 33. So I
Okay. Yeah.
graduated
So
in
I'm
2010.
36. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So pretty close there as far as like, yeah, having that opportunity where there was a certain time and place where I feel like it's a little bit different nowadays, and not that it wasn't back in the day, but I mean like record shops weren't like overly plentiful when I was coming up as a
Hmm.
teenager. Like you had bigger things, but they weren't ever like having somebody that was like accessible of like, hey, this like punk band, like they would literally be somebody in an English class that would have a fucking pin of Charles Bronson, and I'm like,
Hmm.
what is that? And she's
Hmm.
like, oh, it's this like band. They're like really noisy and like chaotic and annoying. And I'm like, oh, can I check that out? You're like, what the fuck is this? Like, but there
Yeah.
wasn't anything as far as YouTube and band camps and all that shit
Yeah.
too. So, and I think kind of relatable, with that as well. Now like you and your guys like your friends, what were common grounds, when you were kind of getting together and you were young, maybe even prior to music and things, that kept your guys' interest.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it was just kind of basic guy stuff of like being into sports at a time, and um you know I think my life has kind of always been tied to music, and so there's always been some aspect to that. So I think that like burning CDs for each other and like listening to like Linkin Park and bonding over that, or playing you know, Legend of Zelda or something. I feel like that was always like a tie. But yeah, a lot of it, I mean, from like small town Wisconsin, a lot of it was just like sports and uh yeah, I don't know, school and just like boring stuff, like some interesting books and stuff, but really mainly it was just like bonding over like, video games and movies and just TV shows and
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. You mentioned burning CDs too. Like, did you guys ever make like soundtracks or like, oh man, like we're gonna have these 10 songs of these bands and we like mix them up and see how they sound? Like, I know it sounds ridiculous, but like that was shit that like me and my buddies would do.
I don't think I ever went that far.
Yeah.
I definitely was like in the world of like my dad actually helped me like join LimeWire and started like downloading like songs and stuff at that point. That was a little
Okay.
later on, but I feel like the burn CDs was like yeah, really like Hybrid Theory was a really big one, or it would be like mixtapes of like Eminem songs and just like I don't even know. Or I have an older sister and she like wasn't into in pretty much any music that I was into either. So I feel like a common thread of people that like got into like cool stuff like really early is that like they had like an older brother or like an older cousin or something that like
Hmm.
showed them at the drive-in when they were 10 or like Nine Inch Nails or something.
Right.
And uh I mean, I was listening to like the Charlie's Angels soundtrack and and like the Doors and stuff from my like my dad and ACDC. So it like wasn't yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Well, and that's very relatable, as far as because I had, read some interviews. I had, watched a couple of things, did some digging through like, socials and different things like that, for research for this. And, I come across, you mentioning classic rock and disco, being bigger things in your youth. And what were, with when that was what you were being introduced to, what were some favorites that were within those realms, prior to like expanding outside of that type
Yeah.
of stuff, that maybe albums or tracks that you loved?
Like I definitely feel like I had a really good foundation of all like the classic rock stuff that, pretty much everybody that is into heavy or extreme music at some point was into. So
Hmm.
like AC/DC was my favorite band. I loved Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, like all that stuff came from my dad. The Doors was a really big one. Yeah, and it was like a weird mix, and I think that kind of like speaks to like my current music taste too. Is that like my mom was really into like Michael Jackson and Casey and the Sunshine Band and like weird
Okay.
disco-y stuff. And
Uh-huh.
so I grew up with like this weird like dichotomy of loving like melody and like big hooks and big choruses and stuff, but also like really loving like Iron Man and not understanding like why this sounds so heavy or loving like the hardest song on Back in Black and
Uh-huh.
like not really understanding like why I was drawn to like that kind of stuff. But yeah, so yeah,
Sure.
it's a weird, interesting kind of blender.
Where, like, because I when I stop and think, I think of like this moment in my life where the things that I was introduced to and like my form of what I would say, that I was a fan of in music was the things that, that my brothers were into or that my parents were into. And, like that was like my interest. But then you get to school and you get to like maybe even later elementary, middle school, and people like, hey, check this out. Like, where do you find like you're starting to really discover your own personal tastes as far as music and getting CDs? You've mentioned like Linkin Park,
Yeah,
stuff like that, like a little bit.
I feel like I can pinpoint it kind of to this weird. Once again, it's a very Wisconsin like small town, but I went to like a basketball camp where like we stayed at some like university dorms or something. So it was like one of the first times I like kind of like stayed overnight like with a bunch of friends. And I distinctly remember this was like 2006, I think, or something like that. And they were playing me like Under Oath and
Oh shit.
like He Is Legend and like kind of like that kind of like heavier stuff for like at the time.
Hmm.
And me coming from like what I just described, like Jimi Hendrix background and shit, I was just like, I couldn't like even like Under Oath was like this is like too heavy, and I'm talking about like To Find the Great Line or like During the Chasing Safety. I'm like they're screaming like I don't understand like what this is,
Uh-huh.
and so but I was like very intrigued by it, and I like was yeah, like those ultimately become like some of my favorite albums for that era. But
Sure.
yeah, just at that time. So then like I just feel like I started doing kind of what might not really happen anymore is like watching music videos and like looking at band members t-shirts or like going and getting CDs and looking at like thank lists and stuff. You know, this is nothing like new information, but like you had mentioned earlier, like there's like MySpace and Pure Volume and Last FM. There wasn't really like band camps or anything at the time. Um, and for sure wasn't like the social media presence that there is now where you can just like click on related artists and stuff. So I kind of just expanded and like tried to just like find different stuff at that point, or I'd like go up to somebody wearing like a Silverstein t-shirt or like an Avenged Sevenfold t-shirt and like talk to them about it, or like a Lamb of God shirt. And uh just like I don't know, I was just like a sponge, and I still am to some degree. And I don't know, I think that's just kind of how I ultimately figured out the stuff that I kind of like, and it just like became heavier and heavier until now I'm buying Slayer albums, you know.
And I don't know if you remember, you know, like maybe not necessarily a particular point, but I remember at one point, you know, talking to some buddies about a band, and they're like, you know, I never heard that band. Like, where'd you even come up with that? And it's just like, well, I was watching like, you know, a fucking music video, and I saw the
Mm-hmm.
T-shirt, you know, and it was almost like it almost felt like a cheat code to a video game or some shit, where it was like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, man, like I can like look at their shirts and like I can go in their thank you lists, and you know, you almost kind of thought like maybe I'm onto something, you know. And it's funny because like it
Yeah.
was nothing original, you know, like as far as like talking to other people and having these conversations and shit, people are like, oh yeah, you just see this list of fucking band names and you don't
Mm-hmm.
know who they are, you know, going through like eulogy records and looking at all these different bands they're talking about. You're just like,
Yeah.
fuck, man, that's insane.
Yeah.
One thing
Your
I cut, oh, go
yeah,
ahead, go ahead.
your Charles Bronson pin story is like my seeing a Parkway Drive T-shirt on like somebody.
Okay,
So like that just
okay,
like
love it.
yeah,
That's
I don't
sick.
know. It's just like a whole product of where I come from, and like well yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. Just like the whole I wasn't experienced to a lot of that stuff. So
Yeah, sure. No, that's I mean, and it's cool, you know, as far as like when that does kind of make that transition into people's lives and how some people take to it and some people, you know, are very, you know, like far from it, you
hmm
know. And it's funny because that same girl that I saw this pin is friends with my wife. So it's like
well
all these
weird.
years later, this girl that like, you know, ended up working with my wife, and I'm like, she's the one that had this fucking Charles Bronson pin. You know, it's like,
Have you
holy
told her that
shit.
story?
I don't know if I ever did, honestly. I probably should at one point or
Wonder if
another,
she
because
remembers. Yeah,
yeah, probably.
great.
But you know what? One thing that I stumbled on that I absolutely love, and it was so relatable to me. I grew up in a very like old school Christian, you know, bring up, you know, as far as my family and my parents, and I wasn't allowed to listen to parental advisory. Rated R movies was kind of something that I had to swindle my way
hmm
around. And you mentioned, you know, like turning down the record or turning down the CD when, you know, there would be cursing or there'd be swearing or different things.
hmm
This made me think, you know, when I was younger, we would be in the store and I would want to buy a CD. Specifically, it was Rage Against the Machines. I think it was Evil Empire. I had to peel off the price sticker and put it over the parental advisory's actual sticker so that my mom would buy it for me.
hmm
Does any of this sound relatable to you? Was this ever anything that
Yeah,
you had to, any
I
endeavors?
have two funny stories about that. Well, first up, it's funny you say that because like later on, my dad really got into like Rage Against the Machine, and so like we would like
Okay.
go, and Evil Empire was one of the ones that like we loved. But anyway, so
Okay.
Hybrid Theory, of course, they have One Step Closer, and
Uh-huh.
so like in the bridge of that song where he says "Shut up when I'm talking to you," I distinctly remember like having that CD playing in a car or something like that, and like turning it down when it got to that point, thinking that like my parents or my sister would like I think it like my sister would tell on me because they said like shut up, and I'm you know, and it's like so mild compared to stuff now. But
Yeah.
another one, dude, is I think like my second or third CD I ever got was Creed Weathered,
Oh,
And so this is like,
sure.
you know,
Okay.
2000, 2001 or something.
Uh-huh.
And obviously there's like big tracks on that. That's like probably why my parents bought it for me. But like the first two tracks are like kind of like strangely, like weirdly, really heavy. And I
Uh-huh.
distinctly remember playing that like when I got it and my mom being like, this is mosh music. What is this? And I was like, wait, what's mosh music? Tell me more. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah. God, that's awesome.
Yeah. Oh my
Dude,
God.
it was just it was one of those things, and I think this is where like really the draw for horror and also like something that I have in the side of my, or in the back of my mind in my own parenting. When I was coming up
Hmm.
and my parents were so anti me watching horror movies or watching, not really anti watching horror movies, but like, just like you're not, we don't drink, we don't smoke, don't watch bloody, gory movies, don't have parental advisory CDs and things like that. It just drew me to be like, how the fuck do I get my hands on these things?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it
The more
just
like
kind of
restricted
like,
it is. Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
I'm just like, fuck, dude. I want to watch Toxic Avenger. I want to watch the grossest shit that I can find. Like, listen to, and my brothers, like, they would have Slayer. They were really big into thrash. And so, like, I
Hmm.
would sit out in the hallway, like listening to all the, the shit that they would have to, discover too. But I loved stumbling on, you mentioning the whole effect of like having to like kind of edit yourself and having stuff because it was like, it was so real. Like I
Yeah.
remember buying a Static X CD, Rage Against the Machine, all sorts of shit. And I'm like,
Yeah.
man, how the fuck am I gonna get this out of the store?
Well, I'm sure you remember or like you were aware of it, but like in the mid and late 2000s, like Christian metalcore was like a really big thing.
Oh
Obviously, I
yeah,
mentioned Under Oath, so
yeah.
I feel like that was like
August
a
Burns
cheat.
Red.
August Burns Red, that was, or like Devil Wears Prada, that was like a cheat code into getting my parents to letting me like get whatever any of those albums because like no,
Yeah,
they're Christian, or like going to like a show. I'm like no,
yeah,
it's like Christian, but it's just like the heavy, like super evil sounding shit.
yeah.
I'm like, no, listen to the lyrics, dude. It's fine.
I swear, I
Yeah.
swear. Yeah. What do you, what was your first CD? I know you mentioned kind of like some earlier ones, but do you remember the first
I
one?
think the very first one was like a Sugar Ray album or like a Smash
Oh,
Mouth album. I think so.
dude. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
In like what 2000 or 2001 or something.
They
Yeah.
and I mean those albums still rip. Just the other day, I put on. Did you ever get into No Doubt,
No, no.
dude?
But yeah,
Tragic
I mean, I know.
Kingdom, their like first
I
album
obviously
that
know.
they had.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good, man. Still rips. It's still so awesome.
Yeah.
And that's like
Yeah.
another thing that's great about having kids is like, oh man, this thing that I thought was really cool when I was 13, like check this out. And then they're just like, yeah, this sucks, man.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
no
like
interest.
hoping that happens. I'm like hoping that happens with my daughter of she's like, wow, cool, you have whatever, this like Converge album or something. That's
Yeah.
so cool. I'm like, that's never, that's just a fantasy. That's never gonna happen. She's not
Yeah.
gonna think that that's cool.
Yeah. Just wait, it's a fucking coaster, brother.
Yeah, give me that Nirvana album maybe, but that's
Yeah.
about it.
Oh, dude. Oh my God, that's fucking great. We're talking about like musical interests in high school and different things. Do you remember what was your school's like the graduating song?
Oh my God, I have no idea, dude. But I
Listen,
remember go ahead.
this is 1,000,000% an honest story. Our
Okay.
school, our graduating story or our graduating song was whatever Nickelback track was like the big one that year. The school that was like the district right across from us had um oh fuck, what's that band called? Haste the Day, Blue 42
Holy shit.
for their
Yeah, but I've
graduation song.
I forgot about that band, so thank you for bringing that back up. Yeah,
Dude,
that's crazy. That's Christian metalcore
like
right there, dude. Perfect example. Yep.
I swear, like we had a buddy named Josh, and like we were like, dude, bring the fucking like yearbook. We don't believe you. There's no way that this happened.
Yeah.
Straight up,
Like they played it when you were like walking across the stage or something?
them, yeah, their school because there was us, and then there was the district like right across, basically like a road across from us was like the rival district. and it was Haste the Day, Blue 42.
That's nuts, dude.
Crazy.
I do remember being at like some either like homecoming or prom dance or something, and one of my friends getting the DJ to play like A Day to Remember uh
Oh, really? Yeah.
or Kill Switch Engage's cover of Holy Diver hit small
Oh,
town
dude.
Wisconsin like a fucking hammer. And that ran through that friend group hard. So yeah, so
God.
the dance floor just scattered, and it was just like me and three other dudes. Anyway,
Oh man. Okay. I
yeah.
mean, we've talked some of these earlier records, and over the years, the the expansion of love that we have for music, it's just never ending. But do you have a couple that come to mind as far as just favorite albums that just front to back, you're like, man, they don't really get better than this?
Uh, yeah. So okay, so I picked out a stack. I mean, these are just like my like first up. That's just like an impossible question to narrow it
It's
down to five, of course.
tough. I know. And this is kind of fun because we can have this right now, and then maybe, a couple months you go back and we watch this again, you're like, fuck, man, I should have really done like these. But hey, this
Yeah,
is what we got for today. I love it.
yeah. Well, my friend Zach, an old high school buddy, commented that Kill Switch at Homecoming was where it's at. See, so I did not lie. That was a real story.
God.
Okay, so I picked out five. I mean, these could
Okay.
change like at any given month, but the first one is You Fail Me, Converge,
Brother.
of
High
course.
five, man.
Like
Fuck.
this, it's probably that or Jane Doe, but I think,
Dude, Jane Doe's good,
yeah,
but You Fail Me,
yeah. I mean, what's left to say?
brother.
Another top five is Nothing, Guilty of Everything. Um,
I don't think I've
some
even
of my
heard that.
favorite, like,
It's the
you don't know the band
band
Nothing?
Nothing, right?
Yeah, the band Nothing.
Okay.
It's like, I think their like second album. Um,
Huh.
just, perfect, like shoegaze, noisy, like heavy shit. And I don't know, it's just a perfect album to me.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah, I know the band. I don't think I've ever seen. Would that like possibly be different than like a streaming cover? Or it doesn't look familiar.
um, it could maybe be like red or white on streaming or something. I think I have like a couple different cover variants of that, but
I'll check.
yeah, the
I'll
classic
check it
one
after.
is
Sorry.
yeah, yeah.
Oh shit.
Um,
Okay. Awesome.
this one like later on as like kind of like I got into like much heavier stuff and started expanding through different subgenres of metal and like black metal and stuff. But Dark Throne, Under a Funeral Moon
Yeah.
is
Okay. Okay.
probably my favorite like Dark Throne album and probably my favorite like black metal album of all time.
Shit.
Um, this one I'm sure is kind of like the odd one out for sure, but it's like I don't know. I think anybody who knows me like knows that I'm a massive Third Eye Blind fan, and like this album, like front to back, is like one of the best albums ever made.
Ripped.
And there's just
Dude.
nonstop hits, and it's
I love
yeah. Like when I was
that.
like, okay, top five. I was like, okay, well, obviously Third Eye Blind Self Titles is on there. Like, I got a Third Eye Blind
Just
tattoo,
build it out.
man. It's not a
that
game.
true?
Yeah, bro. Let's see, right there.
Damn. God, that is sick. Have you seen them live?
I think like three times.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Man,
I mean,
got
it's
to
a
see them.
weird.
I love that band.
Yeah. Oh, dude. I mean, yeah, I think like their first like three or four albums are like amazing, like pop rock. But I mean, once again, I feel like I'm just like a product of the '90s too, and that time. But I think that album specifically is just an all timer, dude. Yeah. And this fifth one, I don't know. I could interchange this one out at any time, but Godflesh Street Cleaner
Okay.
is the OG copy.
God damn.
Yeah. I told you Godflesh would come up again, but some of my favorite stuff.
When we, because you mentioned Dark Throne, you meant like, where are you finding, kind of being introduced to that? Because there's obviously this layer where we're like, man, I'm a fan of hardcore, and someone's like, oh, cool, like what hardcore bands you like? It's like A Day to Remember and fucking, it's like,
Yeah,
brother,
yeah.
we got to get you checking out some real like industrial shit like Godflesh, or get you some
Yeah.
real dark, bleak shit like Dark Throne.
Yeah.
Where I mean, are there particular buddies, shops? Like, how are you
I
introduced to that stuff?
I feel like my path to like getting to like hardcore music, like usually people are into like punk or they're into metal to like get into hardcore first. So like they're into like Rancid and Green Day and like No Effects or something, and they find like a Pennywise album or some shit. But I am very much like from the metal side, as you could tell, like the albums that I picked. And so like when I started getting introduced, like when I moved up here, and like my friend group kind of like basically fire hosed me with all of this new music. Like Converge, I mentioned, was one of them. And so like there were like hardcore leaning bands, but mainly it was like metal bands like Meshuggah or like Every Time I Die was like a really big one. And but they like, leaned hardcore too. So like once I kind of like got the itch for just like heavier stuff through the metal, then I started like doing kind of the same stuff at that point of like, oh, Every Time I toured with like Shai Hulud or like Comeback Kid or 18 Visions, like who is this band? And like just like going from there. But yeah, so like I also had like a friend of mine in college who actually worked for the college radio station. And so he introduced me to a lot of cool shit. So like even before hardcore, it was like figuring out like Glassjaw and At the Drive-In and Thursday was really big for me. And getting into like that post-hardcore stuff, like Touche Amore was really big for me in like 2011 and that kind of stuff. But Modern Life is War as well. But then it just like, oh, these bands were influenced by Cursed or something. And then like my metal friends would be like, oh yeah, Cursed, yeah, you can like Cursed. There's these like weird rules. I'm like, should I like Hatebreed? And they're like, no, fuck Hatebreed. And I'm like, that's not true.
Yeah.
But young Andy didn't really understand that. Yeah. So I guess that's yeah, I came from metal for sure. So like a lot of the hardcore that I hold really dear is like really heavy and like spastic hardcore stuff. Or like hardcore that has like lyrically maybe like touched me or like I really connected with. Like that's how I got like really big into like American Nightmare or other bands like that. It's just like lyrically I connected with that, even though it's like sonically it doesn't really sound like like the heaviest stuff you've ever heard.
Right. And
Yeah.
and that's the thing too, is like I was very much into metal, and then kind of into like the new metal thing, and wherever it was, I can't remember as far as like the record cycle, but it would have been like Sick of It All and H2O and Madball, where I'm like, whoa, what the fuck is like, this is real grimy kind of street sounding shit. Like I'm not even sure as far as like how the introduction of it came, but the big thing, and I don't know if maybe this was something that you noticed too, the big thing for me with hardcore was it felt like finally finding, I would pick up a Korn album and it's 14 tracks long and there's only 6 real fucking songs on it. Everything else is like filler or some bullshit, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh,
Another bagpipe song.
yeah. And then, you pick up like Madball, whatever, it's like, oh, this is like front to back, like a ripper.
Yeah.
And kind of touching on that, as far as what's an album that comes to mind that you love that has an amazing opener and amazing ender? I'm an album guy. I love front to back.
Yeah.
Give it to me. What comes
Well,
to
all
mind,
right.
brother?
The first thing that came to mind, we can blow by this because we've already talked about it like pretty much ad nauseum, but Concubine and Jane Doe are like a perfect front and ender. I'm sure that's
Crazy.
Come up before, but like, yeah, I really connected with Jane Doe, like, I don't know, like 2012 or 2013. Like that was another one where I listened to it and I like couldn't comprehend like what was going on. Like musically, it was just like too advanced or like just like too chaotic and spastic. And finally, like I think I like got drunk with one of my friends and I was like watching him like air drum it. And I was like, holy shit, there's like an actual beat to like the cacophony of sound like there's actually like something going on. So like it obviously really intrigued me. And then like lyrically that album to me is just like perfect. Another one, another one is Power Trip's Manifest
Oh,
Decimation.
dude.
I think the starter Manifest Decimation and the ender of Hammer of Doubt, I think are just like two perfect songs. That's one of my favorite bands too. Like they're another example of like a metal band that is beloved by like the hardcore scene. So yeah, like I was lucky enough to see them a couple times before Riley passed away. I got some great photos of them too, which is like always really cool. But yeah, one of the best bands ever. And then the last one I could think of was Only Living Witness, Prone Mortal Form. Have you ever heard of this band?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
And
baby.
a ripping record.
Yeah.
Holy man.
Prone Mortal Form and then The Ender December, I think are just like too perfect. The whole album is perfect,
Sheesh.
but yeah,
You got
that's
some
just me
fire.
sitting in front of the records and I'm like, damn, these three will do.
Dude, I mean, I love the show and tell. That's always something that's fun, and that's like something to be able to see copies and shit too. And man, the Only Living Witness, dude, that's a deep cut. That's fucking. I've got to go back and listen to that. It's been some
Yeah,
time since I've fucking been on
my
that.
wife just
Hard.
got me that for my birthday. Like they just repressed that. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
Through what? I mean, what label did?
it was like
What label did that?
I don't know. They repressed that one and the other Only Living Witness album. I think just like maybe like a really small run, like through maybe a friend of the band or something like that. Because like I don't know, maybe it didn't like sell well through Century Media. They're like one of those like kind of like forgotten '90s bands that never really got the shine that they deserved. But yeah, I mean those riffs are undeniable. They're insane.
Jesus H. Yeah, it's crazy. Damn, dude. What about merch? We go to shows, we check out some stuff. Every once in a while, you see something, you're like, I wasn't gonna pick this up, or I have no need for an ashtray, but a Power Trip ashtray is just like too sick to not grab. What anything come to mind as far as picking something up from a show that's just too ridiculous not to grab? Or I mean, you showed off the hat earlier. You know what I'm saying? You have stuff like that pops up every once in a while, brother. It's just like
I for
gotta have
sure
that.
like got bitten by like the vintage T-shirt bug for a really long time.
Okay.
And I feel like I was like somewhat kind of like early to the game, so I had like a lot of really insane like '90s Alice in Chains shirts and like kind of grunge shirts and stuff. And I have like most of them still, but like I wasn't paying like the $1,000 like that they are now. But I mean, I have like a pretty insane Converge collection too. But if we're talking about like merch that I had to like pick up at a show or something like that, oh man, I feel like one thing that comes to mind is Pig Destroyer played at this venue called the Triple Rock, which is kind of like this legendary Minneapolis venue that closed down, I think, in like 2017. And my friends took like a party bus up there, so I spent like most of the time just on the party bus, like getting really drunk and not really remembering most of the show. And I like woke up the next morning and I like looked at my pocket and I had this like Pig Destroyer can koozie for some reason. And I have no recollection or I have no idea how I got it or like I hopefully I paid for it or I just found it or something. But yeah, that's something ridiculous I can think of. But yeah.
Dude, that's sick. What a band. Like, I mean, especially seeing them and being able to have any sort of trinket, whether you paid for it or not. Who knows?
Yeah. I think it's always really funny when a band like does something silly like that, like a can cooler or like I remember Nothing had like I think like a pill bottle or something that had like Nothing dice in it.
Oh, really?
I thought that was really
Damn.
Yeah.
I mean, and you see like weed grinders, and it's like
Yeah.
I'm not even a weed boy, by any means, but it's like that's pretty sick.
Yeah.
I might just grab it just to fucking have. I don't know, maybe. Who
I mean,
knows? Get some oregano.
I feel like I for sure bought shirts that I was like, oh, I straight up can't ever wear this like in public anywhere. Sure. Like I think I went to like a candy show when they like opened for Every Time I Die. Like I don't know, several years ago, like before they broke
Mhm.
up, obviously. And I think they had a shirt for sale that was just like, it was kind of like obscured a little bit, but it was just straight up just like a naked girl with her like legs spread. And I was like, I mean, this is an insane shirt, but like I can never wear this
Was it
anywhere.
like black and it had like a rectangle on the chest?
I think that's the one I do have that one. I know what you're talking
Oh, okay.
about.
Okay.
And I don't
I
know
do
what
remember
that
that.
picture is of. It might be that. I've worn that in public, so hopefully most
Maybe I'll
people
have to
don't
go
know.
back and look at it because there was one that they had where it was like a black T-shirt and there was like a rectangle on the chest of it, and it was something
Yeah, it
like
could. Yeah,
maybe I could be wrong. Maybe it was just a badass graphic that I was like,
yeah.
fuck, I wanted to buy that shirt. One of my buddies bought it. Bought the last one in the fucking size I was supposed to have or some bullshit.
Oh shit.
Who knows?
That's what happens.
What about, I mean, shows? So I mean, like, we have this interest in music, we have these different things, like how, where do you get introduced to live music? And maybe let's just start there, as
Yeah,
far as big bill concerts.
I think kind of like my first big bill concert was probably going to see like Avenged Sevenfold or something in like
Dude.
2008 or 9. Um, but I have a very funny story about like just goes to show like how kind of like weirdly sheltered I was or like musically sheltered at that time. Like my buddy picks me up to go to this like local show like in Wisconsin. It was like one of the few like local shows I went to, and it was some like touring band that I had never heard of, but he's like, yeah, you should come and join along. And so I go there, and I distinctly remember like the people at the show like singing along to these songs. And I turned to my friend and I was like, how do they know the words? Like you can't like buy this CD at Best Buy, and it's like not online anywhere, I don't think. Like how do they know like the words to these? And it just was like it's so funny. I remembered that exact like moment because it's like so ridiculous to have like that thought. Obviously, in like 2007, there's like you could go buy a band CD. It's not like forbidden shit or anything, but yeah, that was like a really early concert that I remember that. I'm like, oh my God, I got a lot of learning to do, or I got a lot of research to do. Um,
I
but
mean,
yeah,
there's an
big band.
innocence in that though. Like,
Yeah.
I remember having, some of that where it was like being introduced to, especially like local, and
Mhm.
it's like, I don't even know who any of these people are in this room, much less like you're mentioning that maybe it wasn't something necessarily that like was like vocalized, but at least thought in the back of my mind, like, how do these people know who these people
Yeah.
are? How do like
Yeah.
where did all these motherfuckers come from?
Yeah.
And why is this fucking drunk guy getting thrown through the window? Like
Did that happen?
straight up
Wow.
Helmer Hall. This dude, I think he called him. I don't want to say his name on here, but there was some sort of drama, and it was like the first, I think, show that I was ever at, and this motherfucker got thrown through a fucking window, and it was just like, okay, I don't know,
That's
I
crazy.
guess. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to
No
interrupt there,
smartphones
but
back then. Otherwise, we would have seen
yeah,
that, I'm sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no. I mean, it's cool. Like, was it only until like you getting kind of like the Minneapolis where like as far as like smaller like underground shows were
Yeah.
becoming a thing?
Yeah. I think that too, like it is interesting. Like I was probably still into like those bigger bands of, there's like a little bit of like the hangover of being into like Warped Tour type of bands when I first moved up here. But I kind of like learned pretty quickly that I could go see like my friend's band, or like my friend would know of a show or something like in a basement or at like a coffee shop, and you would just like go to these shows, and it would be a completely like different experience than going to like a huge arena or some like actual venue or something. And I think that kind of like also opened up the idea in my head to eventually start like shooting photos, because it like for sure wasn't, I didn't have that like aspiration when I was like at these gigantic shows or like at these like very heavy security type of venues or anything like that. It was like taking pictures of my friends' bands like in a basement or at some like tiny show that there was like no security and like you could bring your camera to or whatever. Um, but yeah, it was for sure like when I moved up here is when I, well, just because like there's actual like those types of shows here, like that wasn't like a
Right.
thing, or if it was, like I didn't know about it, or I
Right.
didn't have like friends that told me about it. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's still, I mean, it's still interesting. Like, even today, with the internet, the amount of times that like you might be like after a show that you were just at or played or some shit, and you're like walking down like, a downtown area or some shit, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, what the fuck is this going on?
Yeah.
The amount of times that you can just like find stuff and just like stumble upon something, much less back in those days, like being able to go to a show or hear about something. And like I was in like a pretty, not to say like desolate, but we had like a small town, as well. And it was like the amount of times that I would think in the back of my mind, nobody's going to be here. Like, this isn't going to be a thing. This is just a made up fucking piece of paper.
Hmm.
Like, at one point, somebody had made a flyer that Horse the Band was supposed to play uh, a garage like down the road from us.
Yeah.
And we're like, there's no way. Luckily, I mean, that did not happen, which was very sad.
Oh
But it
wow.
was just like, how fucking random would that be? And how did they get him
Yeah.
here? I don't.
I have a
But
strange
as far,
I
oh,
have a
go ahead, go ahead.
strange memory of like not knowing like that a show was going on. I was like in the university area of the University of Minnesota, and there was like a pizza place called Mesa Pizza, and we were just like eating, and it was like right across the street from this venue called the Varsity Theater, which I've seen like mini shows at, but at the time in like 2011 or something, um, I didn't know like what was going on, and all of a sudden this show ended, and a bunch of dudes like in wife beaters start walking out, and I was like, "What show is this?" And then I look over, and at the like on like the display it was Limp Bizkit, and I was like, I would have fucking gone to that. Like that would have been a crazy show. But like,
What?
yeah, dude, and I
Damn.
don't know. Even in that era too, it's just like if you aren't like Facebook friends with the right person or something, you like
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't know that show was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest Limp Bizkit fan, but it would have been an interesting experience.
Dude, I'd probably be a little embarrassed to say the amount of live Limp Bizkit videos I've been watching recently.
Oh,
I don't
I
know,
mean, the Woodstock '99, of course, is undeniable.
but
Yeah,
dude, even post though, like with some of like the newer tracks even that they play and shit, I don't know why it's just been like energizing the shit out of me at the gym. Like all the hardcore I can listen to,
yeah,
for some reason, those live sets of Limp Bizkit of all things, I'm just like, this kind of rips, dude.
damn, bro. Yeah, what? Yeah, Wes he's got
Limp
a crazy
Bizkit.
guitar tone.
Yeah, we do. That's so sick. I love it. Now, I mean, so there was one thing that you had kind of mentioned, a camera of your father's, and
Hmm.
being something, a Konica. Is that how you pronounce that? Konica.
I think it's Konica. Yeah.
Konica. Okay. Was this like you first kind of cutting your teeth, and was that also jumping into as far as live photography for shows?
Yeah, so I guess like when photography I guess came into the mix was so when I was going to a lot of those shows probably from like 2010 to 2015 or so. That's like when I was really, I would say, like experiencing shows and like being interactive with the crowd and like singing along and like just kind of like you know going there to kind of enjoy the music and stuff. And at a certain point, like I had learned how to play guitar for a while, like in high school, and it kind of just like dribbled into college a little bit, and I would just like jam with some friends. But I mean, like I knew I never wanted to like really be in a band or anything like that. But like towards the tail end of like 2014 and 2015, like I started going to enough shows and like starting seeing the same people that I wanted to somehow like be a part of some sort of like community or scene or something. And or at least like start documenting stuff. I feel like I was like seeing a lot of like really cool shows that I felt like would be cool to like take pictures of or something. And there were some like really big photographers at the time in Minneapolis that had like like digital black and white was like really big at the time. And so I remember being like, I'm going to do something completely different. And which is like kind of weird because like I almost only shoot in black and white now, but like when I really started shooting in the beginning, it was like color film. And
Mm.
I just it felt like that was, I just wanted to like do something completely different. And I loved like the look of like a disposable camera or like a really harsh flash and like kind of weird like street photography, but like at a show or something like that. And I remember my dad had this like old camera of his, or I think that was actually his dad's. And so I asked him one time, like, could I borrow it? I mean, it's just like sitting in the basement. Like, can I just use it for a while? And I was like very careful, and that I only shot kind of a couple shows with that because I think I was just like too afraid that it would get like spin kicked and like broken or something.
Yeah,
So,
kind of wondered.
but at the time, film wasn't like as popular. I think like post COVID and like during COVID, like film kind of like blasted off and became, like a lot of cameras became like really expensive because there was like a lot of high demand for that. And obviously they don't make film cameras anymore. So that was kind of like before all that, luckily. So a lot of what happened was like a lot of my relatives would just say, hey, I have these like cameras laying around, like old Canons or Pentaxes or something. And like, do you just want them? Like, I'll just I heard you shoot film now because like your parents put it on like the Christmas card or some shit. Like, or, like, do you want this like box of old cameras? And I'm like, yeah, of course. So like, I started getting.
I mean, that's like a cool blessing, though. Shit,
yeah,
like
that's still like kind of happens,
but just from
yeah,
really okay. That's sick.
like old
Damn.
uncles or something would be like, yeah, I have a gold Canon or something. Like, do you want it? And I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, send it on over. It might not work at all, but yeah. So I mean, I feel like one of your questions too was just like talking about like camera equipment and stuff, and I think like I started getting these different cameras and started kind of like figuring out how to even like take photos, because I feel like I would go to these shows and especially on film, like if there's like low light or something like that, and if you're not shooting with a flash, you're kind of hosed, especially with like color film. So I like remember like shooting, I think one of the last like weekend nachos, like Minneapolis shows in like 2016 or something like that, or 17 maybe. And like none of the photos like really turned out that great. And I was like, oh shit, I'm so bummed on this. Like maybe I shouldn't shoot like photos anymore. And I brought it into like a film camera shop near me, and I was like, could you give me some advice on like what to do? And they're like, oh yeah, like, oh, what kind of camera are you using? I was like, oh, it's just this type of film camera. And they're like, oh, that's your first problem. You're shooting film. Like, you should be shooting digital, like for these types of concerts and like low light. And I was just like, oh, fuck you. Never mind. Wrong guy to ask. Like, this ain't, yeah. So, yeah.
Those rascals. God damn it, dude. And when, like when you're initially getting into that concept and that idea, and because I don't want this to come across like it's like pompous or anything like that, but like, did you have like photographers that you had known or like different people that you had kind of, it almost served as like a on the job training for like looking at like angles or like perspectives or different things like that? Like, I mean, I guess really forming your eye, like how does that develop, obviously over time? But
I feel like when I started shooting, so I think I probably got like serious about shooting like shows probably in like 2016.
Okay.
And that was kind of like Instagram was like around then. And so I like that for sure like started informing some of like how this guy is like shooting a picture of I Hate God or something in New York, and like DMing them and being like, what kind of camera was this? Or, like punishing these like complete strangers. There was like for sure like a couple of like show photographers that were just like around in the scene that like I would watch and try to figure out like, oh, like there's a pile on happening like of this song, like that's when you're supposed to like get a higher angle or something, and like maybe strobe a bunch of flash or something so you can get like a bunch of people's faces or like get close or something like that. But I think really what happened was like kind of like through like the whole Instagram boom or whatever of like finding all these photographers was like kind of finding like 90s film photographers. So like finding like the Seattle like grunge photography and like Charles Peterson, like the famous kind of like Nirvana photographer, and
Yeah.
Soundgarden pictures and all that stuff, and just like buying all those books and just like poring over them and just being like, how did he shoot this? Like, what sort of angle was this? Because I was essentially trying to do the same thing, like going as far as like what kind of camera did they use, what kind of flash did they use, like what kind of film did they use, like all this stuff. Like I was just so obsessed. I mean, I still am obsessed with a lot of the like the 90s film photography, like whatever scene, but that kind of like really started like honing in like what I like the stylistically like what I wanted to do. And I think that like also led me into like developing my own black and white film. And I think that that really like helped, you know, like the turnaround and like the quick kind of feedback that you would kind of lose from film, because you just kind of like drop it off at a lab 2 weeks later or like a week later you pick it up and you're like, I don't even remember like what I was doing or how I shot that or like, anything like that. But like if I develop my own, I could like scan it in by like the next day and I kind of remember, and you can kind of like learn, like you can iterate a lot faster by doing that kind of stuff, and you can kind of like experiment more and figure out like, oh, I just completely screwed that roll up or something like that, you know? So I think that that helped too. And once I learned that, I feel like there was like a whole other, like Reed Hathcock is one of like my biggest probably influences on like current like black and white photography, or my friend Michael Watson, the brain buster. He kind of helped me like, yeah, develop like kind of like an early black and white style, and gave me hints, and like we'd go shoot a show together like when he was in Minneapolis, which was really cool, and he's a good friend of mine. But
Sick.
yeah, it was I feel like still I'm still trying to like figure out exactly like what my style and vision is, or how I shoot a show or something like that. And I think it's just like a mix of figuring out the film that I like, how I develop it, like what kind of settings I use, and yeah, I don't know.
I mean, a very proactive approach too, because the whole '90s thing obviously panned out. Like, especially the mid 2000s. You know, it's like thinking of Vocal Point and thinking of, you know, like some of the magazine covers and some of the, you know, spreads that they would have, and, you know, like Revolver, different shit like that, or whatever, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like the magazine might be. But it's like bands like Scowl, who like are drenched in fucking fisheye lens and like
Yeah.
all of these different aspects where it's like,
Yeah.
dude. And obviously, I mean, like they like love Weezer, and like, hey, anybody who loves Weezer, I have to love myself. But you know, I'm just like, dude, like this is all very much that aesthetic, and even, you know, from clothing to imagery. So that's, I mean, that's, you know, awesome that it kind of panned out to be like, hey, how did these guys do some of this shit, and how do I kind of come, you know, from looking into styles. And then you mentioned Reed and like the insane shit that that dude does too. Like,
Yeah.
man, man,
I've punished
it's
him
awesome.
many a late night. Hey, bro, how do you develop it? Yeah, like what did you do to shoot this? Send him pictures and being like, what did I do wrong? That kind of shit.
I know he
Yeah.
had some years ago, I think, because he does stuff through like Death Wish, right? Like
Yeah.
landscape work.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, yeah, he had like some like prints of, I think it was New York City and Boston and something else,
Mm-hmm.
that he had like were like shots that he had gotten that I bought recently, and that guy, fucking man, it's just, it's crazy. And that's like something that's cool with any sort of art. Obviously, I mean, this is, you know, like nothing that anybody doesn't fucking know, but it's always cool and makes me reappreciate every day, looking into people's personal take on these things, and
Mm-hmm.
just looking at something like photography or drumming, or, you know, and being able to see the subtle little like small nuances of what these things make it, you know, their own work. And you know, so special to it being something where, hey, this isn't somebody else's, this
Yeah.
is, you know, my own shit.
I think
And
the last
like,
last thing I'll say, just on like the maybe a decision of why to like shoot film in the first place,
uh-huh,
was like when I ultimately got like really into shooting shows, I would be maybe next to like three or four people like at like a big show, for example, where there's like barricades and you have like photo rules of like first three songs, no flash, like, you know, shooting like bigger bands or whatever at like First Avenue or something. And I would like look to my left and look to my right, and there would just be like people with like 2 foot long digital cameras, you know, and they were just like camping and just shooting thousands of photos. And I just knew that, like, this is gonna sound like really maybe pompous or whatever, but I just knew that like shooting like a film photo would look completely different than that. So like I was never like, oh, I'm not gonna take a better photo than them. But like maybe I won't, but at least it'll be like different. And at least it'll be like a completely different like vision, even though we're standing next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I've had that experience even just at like DIY shows and stuff too, of even like photographers that I follow that, you know, we were next to each other taking the same picture of like the same dude doing something. They just look completely different just because, like, you know, they are shooting a digital camera and I'm shooting a film camera. So I don't know.
Sure.
I think that was part of it too.
You're, I mean, somewhat like a horror movie guy as well, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Dude, I don't know why this is just like clicking to me in my head, but we're kind of talking these different aspects, and I'm like, it almost makes me think of like practical effects versus like green screen visual effects.
Mm-hmm.
The practicality of like the film camera, and you know, the other where it's like, we'll try and get some magic,
Yeah.
you know, here somewhere in here, and hope that it looks real.
Yeah, I mean, of
I
course,
don't want to sound
movies
like I'm
and
shitting on anybody.
no, I love both, of course,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, I mean, there for sure is movies and films that have like influenced my photography, of course. Like, um, a lot of the stuff that like any like 16 millimeter type film too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
first one I think of is kind of like a low hanging fruit answer would be like Begotten or something, where it's just like completely baked out like black and white film where you don't even really understand what's like going on, but it's just so visually like crazy to see. Or
I was
like
not expecting you to say that.
no.
No.
Damn, I thought that
I
was like the
okay, like a 16 millimeter. What are you gonna talk about? Jesus, dude. Yeah, that movie is fucking disgusting.
yeah, but like
It's terrible.
visually like it's just like black and white film shots, and it's just
I
it's
guess.
like super contrasty, and I don't know. Yeah, I or like another one was like Tetsuo the Iron Man. I think was another one that kind of like a lot of practical effects, a lot of really cool like stop motion, fast forward, weird things. I actually filmed some of that movie with a Super 8 camera to like put into a music video because like I thought it just like fit it so well. And of course, like one of my favorite movies of all time is Blair Witch Project, and that has some 16.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
Of course.
Damn.
Yeah.
Of all time, really. That's. I mean, it's a good movie. I can't discredit it. I just recently got that Second Sight box that
Me too.
they have. I haven't even
I got that
busted
too,
it
man.
open yet. Is it pretty ripping?
Oh yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
I haven't gotten into any of like the features or anything like that yet. I'm honestly waiting until like fall. Like,
Yeah.
To be like
yeah.
right around, you know, now it's getting like warm and you know all this shit. I kind of want to be in that area. Yeah, I mean I can like all of that's awesome. And you know, like as far as like your setup from having something, you know, because and I don't know, maybe I'm just painting this weird picture in my mind, but like I kind of think about as far as you know somebody who's a visual person, you never know, you know, where that artistic strike is gonna, you know, like touch you and kind of, you know, like have some magic happen right in front of you. Do you have a setup of something that's like your everyday like open carry versus your like, you know, your work fucking suitcase carry? Like, is there like different setups there? Or?
Yeah. I mean, especially having a kid, this changes it a little bit. I feel like I always have to have like a camera on me because I just want to like capture all these like fleeting moments.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll for sure kind of like bring a point and shoot camera around. So like a Olympus stylus or a Yashica T4 or something. I'll give you a perfect example of like something crazy that happened. And I was like lucky enough that I had a camera. I was like going to, I made it like a running theme. I was going to take like pictures of every kind of like pediatrician's visit that we would go to. So I'd have like the 3 month and the 6 month and like whatever, just like kind of like just for like personal memories. But so I had like my camera in my car and I was on my way to the pediatrician appointment, and like all of a sudden like traffic came to just like a dead stop. And I saw this like plume of smoke like in the distance, and I was like, oh shit, like what's going on? Like that's crazy. And I like got closer and closer, and there was like kind of like a sign that said like car on fire, like right lane closed or something like that, right shoulder closed. I was like, this is crazy. Like, I gotta get a picture of this, of course. So like I get like as close as I can to this like car that's on fire, and like I roll my window down, and I like just because it's like outside of my passenger side window, and I just like drive by it slowly, and I just like take a picture. And as soon as I took a picture, because this was like before the police showed up and everything, this was like, you know, a minute or something after it happened. I took the photo, and I like instantly looked down, like down my window, and there was just a dead guy laying right there in front of the car.
Oh,
and it was
my
like,
God, really?
oh fuck. Yes, dude. Yeah. And so I don't really know like what the conclusion or like what to take from that story, other than just like sometimes you like, I don't know, that would just be like a crazy story, but I also have the photo to prove that it happened. And it was like a very strange, like I shouldn't have taken that photo, and like honest to God, like I took the photo and I like before I knew that like that was even in the frame. And so I got it like developed, and I got back and I was like, oh fuck, yep, there he is. So anyway, that'll be some like 7-inch Power of Violence fold out like insert at some point. Yeah.
Dude. Oh my God. I mean, like that's something. Have you ever found anything like looking back at your stuff where it might be like a reflection or a face, or from you saying that story? Like there's different times where people say this shit and it's like, oh, okay, you know, like in our interest in horror, have you ever had something where you've looked and you're like, it's kind of
like
weird.
A ghost or something in the background of a picture?
Yeah.
No,
I don't like this shit, dude.
no,
Not in real
I
life.
never.
Like I asked
No.
this and I'm real hesitant because I'm like, I don't think I even want to fucking hear this shit.
I was just talking to people at my job today about like ghost stories, and I've like stayed at some like haunted hotels with my wife like over the years, but no, I am not messing around. I don't want to take a picture of a ghost or something. I don't need that carrying with me.
Especially with a camera, I feel like that's
Yeah, where you have like the negative, and maybe it's like a physical piece that like comes back with you. Yeah, dude. No, thank you.
Have you seen the movie Presence?
I don't think so. No.
Oh man, it's a newer. I think it came out last year. It's Lucy Liu. The whole thing is like from this ghost that possesses this house. The whole thing is like her point of view, and this family moves into the house, and like she is like trying to like ward off this girl from like some certain things that may or may not have. It's deep, dude, and
damn,
it's pretty wild. I mean, but just the whole like perspective too. It's like really cool shot.
I'll check that out. Yeah, that sounds really cool. I mean, I've definitely done like a lot of photo shoots like in graveyards and stuff. Like whatever, for better or for worse, but no, nothing's ever come up creeped out behind the gravestone or anything.
All right. Knock on wood. Yeah. Thank God, man. I never you know, as much as I love horror movies, like and I talk to like my friends and all this shit, it's just like I don't want to fucking go through this. I don't want to, like, that's why I love these. I don't want to be in these situations, dude.
Yeah.
Fucking A.
No, I don't mess with any of that. No Ouija boards in this house, man. No way.
Oh, beautiful. What, as far as your first show, what was that? You know, bring us back to that first show that you bring a camera to and you shot.
Yeah, I was trying to remember this. I think the first show that wasn't just like maybe taking like disposable pictures or something, like an actual like camera that I like set out to take pictures of, was Super Heaven and Creepoid in this like tiny little basement bar. And almost every single picture that I took that night was out of focus. Like the wall behind the drum set was in focus, and everything else is not in focus. I think there's like one picture where like the dude is in focus, and I was like, "Fuck!" I can't believe I missed like the whole thing. But like that's what happens, dude. Like I feel like another like really early show was like the last time I went to that Triple Rock venue. That was like a big deal, and I like didn't like advance the film correctly or something, and so like no pictures got taken, and so there's just like these weird like punishing moments in film that happen too. Like it just happened. Like I just took pictures of like Full of Hell and Cloakroom and Better Lovers, and like I just didn't advance the film correctly, and 36 frames of Full of Hell are on one frame, and it just like it looks cool, but I don't have any pictures. But yeah, so I think it was Super Heaven, which is pretty crazy to think about because they got TikTok gigantic and they're banned again. So maybe I can get my redemption and take some good pictures of them.
There you go. Sick.
Yeah.
I mean, with something like what happened with that Full of Hell show, I mean, there's no way of like being able to redeem that. Like that's just like permanently fucked, huh?
Permanently fucked. Yep. Yeah.
Damn.
That's
like you can't even make a coaster out of it, or like have like a fucking like a Christmas ornament. Like
I could post it as an Instagram story and get a couple likes. I think that's about it, dog.
oh God, that sucks.
Yeah, it's all good. I don't think I've like. Also, that's like why I feel like I don't take like. I've had a couple of friends like ask if I could do like engagement photos or like wedding photos or something, and I'm just like, first off, I don't have like a digital camera, so like if I fuck it up, that's done. We're not gonna walk down the aisle again. Like I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, anyway.
Interesting. Okay. So that's not anything that you've ever done before.
I've taken just like surprise pictures of my friends like proposing, and I think that's like about as far as I've gone in that realm.
Interesting.
Yeah,
you're like,
I'm not like I wouldn't say I'm a professional photographer or anything. So yeah.
I mean, but look at how many people that are fucking amazingly talented, that are more talented than the ones who are actually professionals. It's just like,
yeah.
Cut it out, you rascals. Jesus H. I don't want this to, sometimes questions of like the favorites or what sticks out to you. I don't want this to be something where it's like, choosing or saying that something, but as far as, on the top of your mind and just different things of like over the years of opportunities that you've had, are there a couple of shots or a couple of shows that, maybe even a show that ended up, the whole thing got completely fucked up, but you're like, wow, like I can't believe that I was there with your photography, as far as like shots that you've taken?
I feel like I've been pretty privileged to take some photos of just like some insane shows and capture some insane moments. Like, I don't know, just like a lot of like sold out local shows of people just going crazy, or maybe a drum set gets thrown in the air at a particular show that I got a photo of. That one comes to mind as like being one of my favorite pictures for sure. Another one that I can think of like was maybe like early on. So I talked, I talked a little bit about this like kind of like the failures of like early film, but there was a show. I think it was Full of Hell. Strangely enough, that I took a photo, and like someone else did like a 5-sequence flash or like a strobe flash at the same time. So his head was like captured like 5 times on a single frame, and he was like kind of going like this. I'll have to dig it out. I'll send it to you, or I'll post it or something again. But there was like those types of moments where I was like, holy shit, how did I even get that? And like kind of like capturing that like lightning in a bottle. And I tried to like do that at every show. I know that's like kind of like a tall task, but even just like most recently, I can think of like maybe that prosthetic show that just happened, the new like Power Violence band, of just like Grant, the lead singer, like jumping off of something and like landing behind the drum set, and like getting that photo, and like that's like, it's, I don't know, it's just crazy, and it's just really cool to capture those like really weird moments that are just like so fleeting, you know, but it's cool to have those moments.
I mean, are you much of a gambler? Like when I think of it sounds funny as far as the correlation, but it's like there's certainly an element of like a gamble and like a risk take in photography, but especially with film,
Yeah.
especially like solely with film. Like, is that something that your thrill meter versus like worry is like far, like out to
I
the right?
think I think there's a term that one of my favorite photographers, a 90s dude, talks about. He calls it informed luck. So essentially, like
Hmm.
with
Okay.
film, you're just like getting lucky, like that you capture something.
Hmm.
Digital, you're getting lucky too, but you take 1,000 photos and you probably catch things more often than you don't. But the informed aspect of it is like going to the show and being there is number one, and then like knowing the room and like knowing the type of music and kind of understanding like audience interaction, and it helps to like know the songs of like when something like might happen or might not happen. um and so that like I always love that term, informed luck, because it just feels like that's kind of like what it is. Like when I get a really good shot, it's just like, yeah, I'm really lucky, but I also like I was there and I had everything ready, and like I had my flash fully charged and I had my film loaded and I had enough shots on the roll, and I was able to take that picture like right when I wanted to. So
Hmm.
I think with film, I think the stakes are pretty low on like the types of stuff that I take photos of, and I'm not trying to like make a living out of it. I'm just doing it because I love it, and I love the music that I take photos of, and love the bands that I take photos of. So it's, even if I do screw up a roll, like I'm not like losing money. I'm just losing the cost of the film, because if I develop it on my own, it's essentially $10 or $15, and of course that adds up. So I don't try to screw up a lot of the time.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like kind of a notable thing too for if somebody's watching and they're, wanting to get into photography or they're wanting to, especially with like live music and the fact that the note that you made as far as like knowing the band, knowing the source that you're in front of, at the time where it's like, oh, well, I know that this song has this wild breakdown that everybody on Reddit talked about for 3 fucking months. And it's like, that's probably going to be a moment that, might have
Hmm.
this, or this moment has a really big sing part that I've watched, like YouTube videos already, or saw them at a fest a couple
Yeah.
months ago and was a huge pile on. Like, um, I don't ever think of things like this, like I don't ever, I think, but as far as somebody, listening, that might be a note, that would be something like foundational with taking on these types of things is, being informed.
Yeah,
But,
totally.
and then informed luck.
I
I
think
love
also
that. That's
too
sick.
is like what I try to do is um maybe try to match like the photos with like the vibe of the band. Or let me explain it a little bit. Like if I'm seeing like a shoegaze band versus like maybe like a power violence band or something, or like a more like a Third Eye Blind or something, if I'm taking photos of them. Like I feel like sometimes like shooting color or shooting like different types of maybe like no flash or something maybe fits aesthetically like how their music makes me feel a little bit more. Where
Okay.
like a lot of heavier and crazier shit like makes me, I want like stark like black and white, or I want like weird like shutter long draggy stuff. So the drummer just like looks like he's just like a pile of light or something like that. Like that's like kind of like capturing energy and motion like that, like to fit that. But if you're seeing like a dashboard confessional or something, you're not going to shoot it the same way that you're going to shoot like nails or something. You know, like it's like a different. I don't know. It's a different thing.
Could be sick.
Yeah, I mean that's part of it too. Like
Yeah.
I've definitely
It's a
experimented with
juxtaposition
different.
kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, like shooting like a toy camera. There's like this camera called the Holga 120 that like I've brought to shows before, and it just shoots photos that look like completely different than anything else. And just like bringing that to like a really big show, like I distinctly remember like I was taking photos of like Turnstile or something at this like gigantic fucking venue, and I was like, oh, I should bring that camera because it like will look so weird in that environment to take like essentially like toy camera photos like at this gigantic thing. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you touch on somebody like, Full of Hell, and having a character like Dave Bland, their drummer. What is the magic of capturing something like that is just nonstop?
Oh my God.
And, I mean, especially on film, because that's the thing is that you're not going back, for anybody that's not familiar or just doesn't know. I mean, you're not going back looking at a screen and catching, like, oh, maybe if I can, try this at a different angle, or,
Yeah.
you're shooting in the dark essentially.
It's always
And that guy's a
tough.
fucking madman.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's always tough to shoot drummers, first off, because like unless you're at like some sort of venue that like maybe you could get close or like behind them or something, like most of the times the drummers kind of just like get lost, unfortunately. Um, I'm trying to think of like all the times I've seen them. I don't know if I've like ever been able to like really get close to him because I feel like the stage is like tucked back or something weird, or I screw up a roll and shoot it all on one frame like I just did. But
Oh no.
I definitely
Oh
take I definitely try to like take pictures of like every band member. I know that that's like for sure like a pet peeve of people. If you're just like you shooting a show and you're just posting the lead singer, like are you really posting the band? Like are you really like
God.
shooting photos of the band if you're just
Mm-hmm.
posting the lead singer?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
It's, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I think in like the time of being able to do these and have these opportunities, I think it's like giving me that much more of like an appreciation. I mean, for one, like playing in bands, like I mean, I've played in bands for like years too, but I always think that it's cool though, as far as like when I was younger and I wanted to listen to an interview with Jamie Josta or James Hetfield or whatnot, and like they would have this story, and then all of a sudden, like maybe there would be an intervention with like the bassist, and they're like, that's not even what happened fucking at all. Like I have first count of
Mm-hmm.
like this and this and this leading up to that, and it's like, oh fuck, that's the real like,
Mm.
yeah, you can tell that's the real fucking story.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
cool to be able, to kind of have like different um perceptions, and I think, especially as far as, like videography or photography, and having, some of those things and some of the smaller nuances that might be going on between the bands, and energy, between each other and different things like that.
Right. Yeah.
um, One of, I mean, my favorite things to get into, and this doesn't have to be a pit call moment. This doesn't have to be, you getting into talking shit or anything, but for cats just starting out, for somebody just starting out or getting, a little bit more serious with photography, uh, can you educate us, on some etiquette, some show etiquette, for photographers, and the do's and the don'ts of a legend, to come up and just, be a fucking a good photographer, be a good presence in the room, and what are some do's and don'ts, brother? And maybe
Man,
some first hand accounts of some of the don'ts that you had to learn from.
I feel like I feel like there was a bubble that burst for a while. I feel like each city and each scene kind of goes through like photographer pains, just like from what I've seen online of like too many stage potatoes or whatever. I feel
Mhm.
like there was like a for a while there were a bunch of photographers that would come to shows, which I just want to preface like that's awesome. Like I think like as a photographer myself, like I don't really I'm never like upset that there's like a million photographers or anything at a show. I could totally see if you're a band member and like are just getting like a camera stuck in your face all the time. Like I for sure could see how that could be annoying. So I feel like that's probably like maybe one of the things I would say is just like kind of just like be spatially aware and kind of like know your surroundings and definitely like look behind you. And if you're like the only person that's like standing in front of the band, maybe don't do that. I don't know. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I think it's gotten a lot better. I think there's just been like too many like viral like show photographer like memes and like threads and stuff of just like people shitting on photographers, that like people probably wise up and understand that like maybe strobe flashing someone an inch away from them probably isn't a good idea for the entire time. I don't know, but
Right.
I definitely, I guess like how I should, I could make a conscious effort to not like necessarily have like my camera in someone's face like constantly. And I think that's just like kind of how I shoot. I'm there for sure, like to enjoy the music and the show and take photos, you know, kind of secondarily. So
Mm.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, and like it's not something to bring up. I mean, as far as like, cause I respect the shit out of like that being a presence at shows, and I respect the fact of being able to go back, and I kind of go back and forth with the videography sometimes. Like I do love like my buddy Steve-O, like he does an absolute great job with like shooting shows, around here and whatnot. But like, um, Sam, who is like a local photographer. He's in, like a couple cool bands. Great dude. Like, there's a solid thing with being able to go back and have a still moment. I think something that I appreciate more is like the photography and it not being something where you're seeing the whole like aspect of it, but just like a
Hmm.
glimpse and being able to kind of relate that story along with it and say like, oh man, this show this night we had such and such and da da da, and kind of go along with like being able to have your own tale of like what happened and who these people were in this picture and different things like that. So I mean, as far as my experience, I feel like I have always had a like a positive more than negative, but there's been other times, where like somebody's like weaving in between like band members moving and shit, and you're just like,
Yeah.
oh, dude, like
Yeah.
they they probably don't even know that fucking you're there right now, man.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
and I've seen some other people I'm like, whoa, they absolutely pulled that off. Like,
Yeah. I feel like, yeah,
wow.
some people are, yeah, for sure, like have way more balls than I do to like go do that. I think just like, I definitely, I feel like I have an advantage just because like a lot of the bands that like I take photos of are my friends. So like I feel like I'm allowed, or not allowed, but like if I do want to like step behind someone or like stand behind an amp or something to take a shot, like
Mm.
I'm not like that intrusive or like trying to, you know, they know who I am and they know the type of photos I take. So
Mm.
I think there's that level
And
of just like going to shows for a long time and like just like being connected, I think is also just kind of like
yeah.
a very important part of like shooting photography or like show photography too. And I think social media like obviously makes it like a lot smaller, and you can like share photos with bands, and bands will share them if they like them and that sort of thing. And so you just like gain like a relationship. Next time they come around, you can hit them up for like photos or like maybe even like promo photos or something at that point, and you just like
Mm.
get a working kind of like cool relationship with them that way.
Mm.
And I've just been fortunate to just like be shooting shows so long to like have a couple of bands that are like that. And yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I was just gonna mention, like as far as like newer people that are looking into that, that's also something too, is like you have to give things an opportunity to be able to kind of fester through those initial moments. Like you have that introduction phase and that new person, who is this and what is it that they're doing? And
Hmm.
what, oh, okay, they're shooting pictures, okay, like that's cool. And then all of a sudden you start seeing some of the stuff. You're like, oh shit. And you see them another couple shows like maybe the next month or whatever, and it's like,
Hmm.
everything doesn't always have to be like right away first thing, like kind of proving yourself and having something where
Right.
it's like, hey, I'm here to be like an asset, to what it is that we have
Yeah.
going on in the scene, and
I think
not
that's
being an
like
asshole.
something uniquely amazing about like the punk and hardcore scene though, is that like take like a rap scene or something, people will just immediately want to go like shoot a stadium show or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, how do I get like a media pass to go shoot some band at some gigantic place? And it's like, well, I don't know, because I've been like shooting like basement shows for like 10 years almost. So it's like a completely different thing. And like
Hmm.
hardcore is cool that way because like you could love a band and you are think they're the best, and then you can go see them at like a tiny little room and maybe even become like friends with them and like take photos of them. So
Hmm.
it's like a very
It's
like
incredible.
yeah, it's that's what's cool about that scene for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's awesome. I mean, in like even aside from, we kind of touched on this earlier, but one thing that I've always loved about your stuff, and I've always loved, the very contrasted like black and white, black and grays, that you have. But then like you dig into your stuff and you have like glimpses of moments that may just be like an everyday occurrence. It could be something in just finding beauty with like routine life or just and that was kind of like where my idea uh or having like a camera that's just on hand and something for you to be able to shoot different things. But what draws your eye as far as something every day? Like you mentioned that car crash and that obviously being something
Yeah, that insane
obvious, like,
example.
or
Yeah.
something like,
Yeah.
where it's like, oh
Yeah.
shit, like, wow, this is like, something that's not every day. But are there different things as far as within your work and within this work of, like the everyday capture that, that specifically draws you?
Yeah, I feel like I take a lot of photos that I don't end up posting, um, that are just kind of like I want to take them kind of just for like everyday documentation, especially like with the family and stuff. But the ones I do, like what draws my eye is just like something that's just like a little bit off about it, or maybe a little bit like off-putting or a little bit dark or something weird. Like one example would be I remember I was like leaving some place and there was like a set of like stone stairs, and my wife like walked up them, and I know it was like winter time, so I noticed like someone had dropped their like coffee or like green tea or something, and it like was spilling down the stairs. And it like, if you take a black and white photo, you don't really know like what that is, and there wasn't a coffee cup or anything in it, so it just looked like dripping stuff. And so like I took a photo of her like walking up these stairs like with these kind of like weird like kind of like bloodstainy things. And I was like, oh, that's like a cool photo. Like that like captured my eye of just like weird things of like
Hmm.
I don't know, you're just in general everyday life, but there's just like something a little bit off about it. Or I don't know. I think that lends itself too though, like with like the really contrasty black and white stuff too. Like you can make a scene look way more dramatic or like way more intense and scary than it actually is or something like that. Like taking a picture of like a firework or something and it looks like kind of weird and scary, or just like taking a picture
Yeah.
at night with like a flash. But if it's black and white, then it kind of just like everything looks like super white and I don't know, kind of scary and washed out. So I don't know. I don't. I hope that answers your question. I was
Sure.
thinking about that question, but I don't really know what it is. I think it's just like kind of what interests me and what I think is really cool. And there's a lot of other photographers that do I guess like similar stuff, but maybe not like completely black and white. Um, that yeah, I don't know. I try to like take photos of stuff that I also like people that take photos. So yeah.
Did you have a lot of like photo albums like when you were a kid, or have different
Yeah.
like actual like black and white prior to there being like colored printed pages?
No, I don't think that stuff. Like it was for sure just kind of like Walgreens printed photos that were just like in a photo album or like a scrapbook of like a family vacation or something like that. I do remember
Okay.
my dad taking like black and white photos of the Badlands when we went there when I was like really young in the 90s, and those photos were really cool. And I think that was the first time I kind of
Damn.
even realized that he even had that camera to begin with.
Oh
So maybe
wow.
that's like maybe my earliest like black and white photo memory, but yeah.
Okay. Wow. Damn. That's crazy. I always think it's cool, when like some of my buddies, do like photography or different things. Then I think of like some of the stuff that I have from like in my childhood, or like some of the things that I have back at my house. And you think of like collectors in general. Myself, like I'm big into like movies, but there's people that are into records, and then it kind of spills over into like coffee table
Hmm.
books or like collections and different things like that. And um, it's just interesting when you look at something like that, that you pay all this money for, and then sitting right next to it is like a kind of journal of like 4 years of like your family and your kids and like the growing up and
Hmm.
all this shit. And it's
Hmm.
just like kind of an interesting like aspect of like that being something connected to that, but not at all.
Yeah, right.
Like nobody's gonna fucking buy this. Like
But that's probably like the most important stuff to you, though. So
but that's yeah, and that's the thing too, is it's just like it's so funny because it's just like so connected, but then also so disconnected too.
yeah.
And is that something like through home? I know that you mentioned as far as like stuff that you don't like post or anything, but are you guys big into like creating like albums or doing like physical aspects? I know that you have like a zine and different things like that, but
Yeah, like yeah, for like show wise and photography wise, I've been doing zines for a while. So that's been a really cool kind of like outlet, and I think like how I viewed it is probably not dissimilar to how other people view like making zines or any sort of like physical media. Is just like it's more permanent, and Instagram photos, you're just like kind of like scrolling by and they're kind of like fleeting. I think like Joe Lacey was even talking about it in his interview of just like he wanted to make like a book that like people can like sit down with and like and really like go over the photos, like how they were kind of like meant to be seen or things like that. And I mean that speaks directly to me because I have like bookshelves full of photo books too, because I do that all the time. I just like look at photos. But yeah, I forget, what was the other part of that question? I'm sorry, man.
just as far as like if you guys have albums
Oh
at the
yeah.
house or different things that like
Yeah,
you make like that are
I make a
personal.
calendar. I make a calendar every year of like
Oh,
like
okay,
pictures of our
okay,
like
that's
baby
awesome.
and like cat and dogs and stuff. But I definitely need to start like making like photo books of just family stuff. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, man.
You do developing like at the house, right? Or how does that work?
Yep. Yeah, like I don't need a dark room or anything. That's like more for like if I'm printing or like making prints.
Okay.
Um, so if I can just develop in my basement, and then I have like a scanner. So I'll just like scan the photos digitally, and then I'll edit them, and that's what I'll post. So I got a pretty good setup. I've gotten it down like to a science pretty much.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
I mean,
Dude,
I've done at
it's
this point maybe hundreds of rolls for sure.
man. It's always so cool. Like I mean, I love, as far as like you have some friends who are like, you have a fucking pipe burst and you're like, oh shit, like, I can fucking do that. But then you also have like different aspects of like how to connect and edit old school reels of film and how to develop, photography and how to do that. It's
Hmm.
it's always sick. I always love, some of like the smaller like details that like people get into with doing things, and especially a craft of their own, where it's like I'm gonna cut out the middleman and fucking do it myself,
Yeah.
and have it done how I want it. How does that transition? I mean, like we get into you've done work in film video with like Phobophilic and with fucking
Mhm.
Giallo. Like, how does that transition?
I think at a certain point I like learned about Super 8 cameras and kind of got really obsessed with that idea and did a lot of research on it and watched a bunch of videos and realized that I could shoot Super 8 black and white and also develop Super 8 black and white. Uh, so like normally
Oh,
Super 8's like pretty expensive, like $100 to kind of like get it processed and stuff. Um, but I don't know. I got a couple of Super 8s, and since they're like kind of really old and kind of outdated, a couple of them broke down. So I like eventually got like my third one that like, kind of like finally worked, and I just like shot some like weird kind of spooky stuff around the house and developed it, and I think I had posted that at some point, and then
mm,
my friend Jake who was in Twin Tombs, I think had hit me up and was like, dude, we should try to do like a video or something.
Hmm.
And I was like, bro, I've never done that before, but like, let's give it a shot. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so we went out to like the practice space, and like he had, like the band had an idea. So we like shot like whatever. And I came home and developed it. And like, what's interesting about like developing the Super 8 stuff is that you like stuff it all into a canister, so it like overlays on top of each other and gets all crumpled up, and basically like the exact opposite of like what you should do. You should like be like kind of like really careful with your film and stuff. But with like Super 8, then when you project it gets really grainy and messy looking, and there's like flashes of white where like the film has like overlapped and like isn't fully developed and stuff. So out of that came like this really weird kind of like interesting like viewpoint, or like I don't know, like a stylistic kind of like grittiness that came with like Super 8 stuff. And I had got some like free like video software or whatever, and like spliced it together, and they sent me like the video, or sent me like the music for it. Um and it just kind of like went from there. So like the Phobophilic dudes, I had known them for a while, and I've shot in like a couple of photos for them, and they kind of like asked me to do a music video, and I was like super stoked and really honored because I'd never done like, I mean, they're on like a label and shit, so like
Right.
I wanted it to like, I was like, oh fuck, this is gonna go on like YouTube, so like I needed to, I don't know, be a little bit more like professional about it or something. So we like met and like talked through like concept ideas of like the what the lyrics mean, and like kind of like visually like what they were looking for. And I talked through like what the lyrics meant to me, and like what my vision for like the video was. And it like kind of overlapped like quite a bit, which was good. And then yeah, they just like kind of let me run from there. And you kind of spoke on it a long time ago, but like I definitely like, I have no experience in like, editing or like CGI or anything like that. So like any sort of like effects would just be like practical effects.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
Yeah.
lighting mannequin heads on fire, and like doing like smoke machines and like weird like time lapse stuff with like clocks going around, or like filming like movies or something like on my TV, but then like filming them on Super 8 that I know would like kind of look all weird. So yeah, I mean, I love doing that stuff. It's definitely like a labor of love. It takes a really long time to kind of like do one. Um, so that's kind of like why I do one like maybe like once a year or something like that. But
Okay.
yeah, the spine one that I just did, I'm really stoked how that one turned out. That was just kind of like
Dude.
me fucking around with some like cutouts of like some crying faces and stuff, and then I brought a Super 8 to like their show when I went and saw them. And yeah, I don't know.
Where was that show?
Um, it's like a tiny little music venue called the Flying V Music Hall in Minneapolis.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because I was trying to think, was that like a fest of some sort, or is this something different?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's the Snow and Flurry Fest. This was like a
Oh,
couple months before
okay.
that when Spine came through.
Okay.
Just kind of like on their own. Yeah. And I they played the Giallo release show, so I like met them and took photos for them, and they liked them, so I felt comfortable enough to be like, hey bro, I like put together this video. I hope you like it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not
It's
asking
like,
for any money. I'm just trying to think it's cool.
You're talking to Antonio like you're looking up at a fucking roof of a house. Jesus Christ. I'm 6 feet, and this
Yeah.
guy has got to be at least 8'4".
Yeah,
Like, what are you doing? Can you hear me?
he's the
It's
coolest.
insane.
He
It
I
is great.
he's a pretty intimidating dude. I think last time I saw him, I walked up and he's like, show me pictures of your baby. And I'm like, oh yeah,
It's so cool.
yeah,
So cool. Dude, and that's the greatest thing. I mean, like, us being able to have this conversation, and, just the cool people that are out there. You have like such like horror stories with fucking everything. And I love that in the hardcore scene, like there are just like straight up normal, cool, regular people. Like it's just like you always have like those negatives of things or whatever, but it's just, to be able to like stop and say something kind of goofy and just like have like, a fun conversation with people and it not be like some like big fucking asshole thing or I don't know why I'm blabbing about this or anything. I love hardcore shit, dude. It's just like it's such a cool community and
Yeah.
I hate when people try to fuck it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking bastards. As far as when we talk about some music videos and you doing, some of the stuff, the most recent was Spine. Not to get into do you have anything like, is there a tentative 2026 release that you're going to be digging into?
For like a music video I'm working on or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting the itch again to like trying to figure out how to do one, but no, I don't have really one lined up right now. But I'd love to do.
Okay.
I'd love to do something. Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of always been like. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say because you say like as far as like trying to like figure it out, like is it like a different process every time of like, okay, how am I gonna kind of fucking flesh this out?
Yeah, I try to find a band that has like 20-second songs, so it's easier. So it's a little bit faster. No, I guess I think the Phobo video and I guess maybe like the Tom Coombs one are the only ones that like they asked me to do it. The other ones I've like just felt inspired to maybe like inspired by one of their songs or something and just kind of like shot some stuff that maybe resemble like the Giallo video, like shot some like Giallo footage of like some movies and stuff and brought a Super 8 to a show and was just like, hey, I might throw together something like hope you like it type of thing. So it's yeah, I'm ready to do another one for sure, but just need to find the right thing.
Dude, I love it, man. I mean, we have been at this damn near 2 hours now. I knew that we were going to be here, brother. You know what I'm saying? I had a lot to ask. We had a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah.
And maybe even a little bit of a surprise at the end of this is that, we got to do something else at some point that's going to be talking about horror movies because I really, I didn't want to keep you for a 5 hour fucking conversation here and just have you having to go through fucking taking 2 different shit breaks and all that. At some point, I would love to be able to have have a conversation as far as with horror movies and those interests too. But every once in a while, man, we have like shit that you have too much cool stuff going on. We got to take it step by step, brother. Yeah,
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I'd talk horror movies whenever you want, man.
Dude, Andy, this has been it's been incredible.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I've always been somebody that loves to see the details, the behind the scenes, the how these things are done, and to have a inside look at your process and your work, dude. I can't thank you enough. This has been great.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, man. Thanks for finally setting this up, and I know it's been a while. Yeah, no, it's really cool to talk about like photography stuff. I feel like I don't get really that opportunity to do it that often, and it's obviously a huge passion of mine. And to get like really inside baseball and talk about like shooting punk shows and stuff, like yeah, it's a cool opportunity. So thanks again, man.
Dude, absolutely, and I have other people on the upcoming months and whatnot, and I think it's just I think it's a necessary thing to be able to like cover as far as we talk about the drummers and bands and the vocalists and the different things, and I think there's that ingredient of that photography that is involved in shows that I really like to hear those stories, man. I like to hear how their involvement goes and their process, and it's always fucking cool. So like, I'm gonna keep on happening.
Listen, bro, what are
dude,
bands? What are bands' Instagram accounts gonna post if no one's taking pictures of them?
Oh God, 4 fucking reels of somebody dropping a drumstick every fucking take. Be fucking awful, man. Instagram wouldn't exist.
I'm just kidding.
All right, Andy, thank you so much, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Let you go here. Anybody that tuned in late, I have new episodes every Tuesday. We'll have this in the next couple months on YouTube here, and I'll promote this episode. So In the meantime, brother, we will talk horror movies sometime soon. And you take care. Have a good night, my man.
Stoked. Thanks, man. Thanks again.
All right. See you, buddy. Fucking.
He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi, lo-fi, a horror guy. Yeah. Lo-fi horror guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.